You got a lot that came from just the various cities up and down, all the way up through Green Bay, and you don't get as much in the western part of the state. And so I was not sure how Madison fit in to the culinary contributions that kind of made our regional cuisine. And we started to look, and we started to talk about what the most iconic contributions were. And one of the things that I like about the presentation we have set up for you today is we've got like multiple ways of conceptualizing what local food is. You know, one way to conceptualize local food is food that's actually grown in the state, you know, and therefore bears the trademarks of true locality. Another way to think about local foodways are the traditions and the rituals involved. You know, I mentioned that I wrote about jazz brunches and Réveillon dinners, and I think that Therese is going to hit on both of those with the farmers market, because it is truly a tradition. It is so many things. It is a place, but it is also a ritual for a lot of us. And then, of course, my big thing that I love is composed dishes, right? This is why I am a taxonomist at heart. So when I think what is local food, I think of things, you know, like our you know, beer cheese soup and things that actually represent place. And so obviously the morning bun is a great example of that. And unfortunately, we were originally supposed to have well, hoping to have, I should say, a third speaker, Richard Deluge, talk about the contributions of the agriculture school, and unfortunately he was not able to make today's date. But I will read sort of shamelessly from my notes, since this is not my area of expertise, to talk to you about this particular culinary contribution. And we talked about iconic ways that the foods, you know, I mean, if you're talking about ritual meals, composed dishes, all of that sort of thing. Reading about the agriculture school's most iconic contributions to greater American cuisine at large, I realized there's a whole category that I had never conceived of. Because the two biggest contributions perhaps from the agriculture school are Babcock's butterfat test and the Master Cheesemaker program that is still up and running. And both of these, what they have in common is that their real contribution to the food that you get on the table is that they upped the market. They raised the quality of the game for everybody. And so I never considered that you could contribute to flavors and such simply by making sure that there's a better product out there. So I'll tell you a little bit about both of those. Fortunately, the Historical Society and the Master Cheesemakers Association have great PR and some good articles out there. So Stephen Babcock, he was an East Coaster like a lot of the 19th century people that came to Wisconsin. He accepted a position in agricultural chemistry at the University of Wisconsin in 1887, and it was 3 years later that he invented his famous butterfat test. And so before the butterfat test, Wisconsin, like a lot of the Midwest, was trying to transition from like an agricultural economy based on wheat to one based on dairy, and they were running into certain problems with that. But one of the main problems with the dairy industry then is it paid people based on the quantity of milk that they produced, and so there wasn't a lot of incentive to look after quality. You didn't have a lot of the sanitary standards of today, and you would get all sorts of impurities in the milk. But also, you know, I read online that aged cheeses trigger the same part of the brain as cocaine. And if you have a product that valuable, one of the things that people do to maximize profits is to spike it and adulterate it. And that is what people did with dairy products back in the day. Unscrupulous farmers would cut the milk with water or other additives. And so everybody at the time was trying to invent a purity test, and Babcock was the one that succeeded, not only in getting one that worked, which is of course the most important thing, but one that was cheap, which, as you know, to industry matters a lot. And so I'll tell you a little bit about it. The gist of it is that you put the cream in sort of a centrifuge. You put sulfuric acid in it, which helps the parts separate, and then you run it like a centrifuge. The butterfat floats to the top, and it is easy to measure quantitatively, and that can tell you how pure the actual product is. Babcock's improvement on the centrifugal test proved to be the first practical and reliable appraisal of milk quality. This made it possible to fix standards for milk inspection and to set fair milk prices according to quality. The test made it relatively easy to determine which farmers watered or skimmed their milk, And then because of this test, within a generation, Wisconsin led the nation in milk and cheese production. Babcock's test and testing device, which he never patented, part of corporate culture that I sorely miss as an aside, which he never patented. It won grand prizes at the Paris and the St. Louis International Expositions of 1900 and 1904. It was likened in importance to the innovations of the steam engine and the cotton gin, and all over the world, Babcock's name became a household word. So this is it. It revolutionized the entire industry with people able to pay for better quality. Farmers were motivated to make better quality product, and so if desserts are our thing here in Wisconsin, he's largely to thank for a lot of those dairy contributions. Ironically, when people think of Babcock Hall, they think of the ice cream, and his original Babcock test did not work on ice cream. It took until 1934 and a professor at the University of Nebraska to modify his test to get it ice cream worthy. And then I mentioned the other contribution from the agriculture school that was pretty important in terms, iconic, especially in terms of the stature of Wisconsin cuisine. You know, we think it's because of programs like this, I think, that we started to draw the interest of things, you know, Top Chef having just come to Madison and dominating the news headlines for the last several months. I think that when you look at people that are that up in that echelon of the culinary world, they try to look for particularly high quality. And those of you who watch Top Chef, you know they did do the farmers market for sure, and of course they did a Wisconsin cheese competition. But the Master Cheesemaker program is really what got a lot of the cheeses on the radar of the elites. I know when I was growing up, I talked to people in Europe a little bit about Wisconsin cheese, and some of the people in the know there, they said, oh yeah, but you produce a lot of cheese, but it's kind of commoner's cheese. And I was like, I was taken aback. I was like, what? So they didn't use the word commoners, but that was the message that they were giving me. And I think that the culture has changed drastically in the decades since then. The Master Cheesemaker program, they call it the PhD in cheese. Not just because it is a certification that proves that you are at the top level of your game, but also because of the rigor of the program that you have to go through in order to get the Master Cheesemaker certification. And I apologize because I'm having traumatic grad school flashbacks just reading some of these things. So participants must be active, licensed Wisconsin cheesemakers with at least 10 years experience working at a plant which participates in the quality assurance program. The Master Cheesemaker title is cheese variety specific, so they must have made the cheese variety for which they seek certification for at least 5 years. They need to complete required courses in cheese technology, artisanship, grading, and quality assurance. They must complete a list of elective courses in cheese technology, cheese artisanship, cheese grading, quality assurance, and applied dairy chemistry, among many others. And they have to participate in a 3-year apprenticeship, during which time the candidate must submit samples of cheese for evaluation and quality and consistency. They must pass a rigorous final written examination, which could take up to 40 hours to complete. That's serious academic business. And then, after you have the certifications, you need yearly evaluations to see if you are staying up to the level required by the course. So this is a real rigorous certification program. There are 1,200-ish cheesemakers in Wisconsin, and only 5% have the title of Master Cheesemaker. The purpose of the program is threefold. So the first is to provide a formal sequence of courses that leads to the title of Master Cheesemaker, thus establishing an official, rigorous program. The second is to add value to cheese. Essentially, they're trying to be like Europe. You know, Europe cares much about what the French call terroir. They talk about appellation d'origine contrôlée when I lived in France, which is essentially trying to tell you exactly where your food came from, exactly how it was grown, a lot of the principles that some of the farm-to-table movement uses today. And so they were using a European model, and they essentially wanted prestige in the cheese-making world, and this was the way to get it. Finally, the third aim is to equip Wisconsin cheesemakers with the knowledge and the skills to be competitive in the marketplace, both nationally and internationally. And so we have a lot of award-winning cheeses that from people who have gone through this program. I believe that the Grand Cru Surchoix that won the World Grand Prize in 2018, that's made by Emmy Roth down in Monroe, and I believe that's a graduate of the program. You've got, I know Pleasant Ridge Reserve, the orders went through the roof after Top Chef for that one. That was the one that won that particular competition on that Top Chef episode. So we've got some top quality cheeses to compete with the best in the world, and we prove that year after year. And you can thank University of Wisconsin-Madison for a big hand in that. So I'm going to turn it over to Therese right now, and I'll tell you a little bit about her. Some of you have probably read this yourself. Therese Allen has been called Wisconsin's premier food writer and the keeper of the state's culinary heritage. Her columns have run in the Edible Madison, Edible Door, Isthmus, Wisconsin Trails, and elsewhere. Her books include the Dane County Farmers Market Cookbook, The Flavor of Wisconsin, The Flavor of Wisconsin for Kids, Fresh Market Wisconsin, Wisconsin Local Foods Journal, and the Ovens of Brittany Cookbook. Most of these are for sale back on the center table, by the way. A former chef, Allen is the co-founder and longtime leader of the Culinary History Enthusiasts of Wisconsin, also known as CHEW, and the former food editor at the Organic Valley Company and past president of the REAP Food Group. She divides her time between Madison and Washington Island. And with that, I will turn it over to Therese.
Hi, everybody. Can y'all hear me just fine? Can you hear me okay? Yes. Good, that's great. Okay, thanks, Mark, for the introduction. I'm just pretty excited to be here today to talk about the Dane County Farmers Market Cookbook, History, Recipes, and Community Flavor. My goal today is to give you sort of an informal history of the market, how it grew from over 50 years, from a small venue with a handful of vendors and a few staple vegetables, into a much acclaimed 300-member force that revitalized our city center, helped agriculture flourish, and changed the character of food in the region. That's a pretty big order there. So we're going to have some snacks afterwards also too. Let's see, I want to start with just a little bit about the market itself in case nobody's ever been there. Just as cheese, beer, and brats come to mind when you hear Wisconsin, so does the mention of Madison conjure the Dane County Farmers Market. The city's most celebrated event takes place on Saturday mornings from April to November beneath the majestic tree-framed state capitol dome. Shoppers